are you still kind of like racking your brain?
Oh yeah, no, I'm still kind of racking my brain. After the first question, I kind of understood it, but after that question, I just kind of went downhill and stopped understanding.
Okay. So let's see. So like on the second one, you also needed help on still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the second one then. So do you have the notes from Tuesday?
Let me check.
So we can actually go back to the old folder, and I have the notes right here, to be Wriggle notes.
Okay.
And then, so if you want to open this up on your computer so you can like scroll up and down on it, please do so. So go ahead and open that up on your computer. Do you remember where I said that was? So that's going to be under week 2.
So you go to your class.
So you come into my class.
Okay.
And then come down to week 2. So this week right here. And then find week 2, Tuesday, October 13th, session 1 for A and C, or session 2 for your class. And then hopefully you have already clicked on all this stuff because it was Tuesday. Tuesday. And if you've already clicked on all that, you can click on 2B Wriggle Notes.
Okay.
Okay. So now you should have, do you have this copy of the notes on your screen?
Okay, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here. And the question about dominant traits. If you were using your notes as a resource to try to figure out how to answer this question, where might be a good place to start? Is this maybe a vocabulary term? Dominant traits. That's something you probably don't necessarily know off the top of your head. So look in the notes, see if there's anything about dominant.
Not necessarily all the time yet.
Okay. So what can you find in the notes about dominant?
Okay. I'm sorry, it's still okay.
Okay, that's fine.
So dominance. I have to scroll down. I'm sorry, it's still loading.
Okay.
So dominance, you say? Okay. The dominant allele is a form of a gene that, when present, covers up the appearance of the recessive allele.
Okay, so keep that in your brain. And then I'm going to go back over here. So dominant traits tend to be observed more frequently because, can you find anything that is similar to the definition of a dominant trait?
Oh, yeah, it's dominant allele.
Okay, yeah, so dominant allele and a dominant trait. So I'm going to actually erase these things here so you can see the whole entire words. So do any of these answers sound kind of like that definition for dominant allele?
Yeah, the first one.
The first one, yeah. So our definition for dominant allele says that when it's present, it covers up the appearance of the recessive. And then over here, our answers, well, dominant traits, mask or cover up, you put a mask to cover up your face, recessive traits. So that's the one that makes the most sense.
Okay, yeah, it makes more sense.
All right, thank you, sir. You are free to be muted. Yay, freedom, right? Off the hotspot. Okay, question number 3. In a particular type of cat, coat color follows the dominant recessive pattern of inheritance. The allele for a brown coat, capital B, is dominant to the allele for a white coat, lowercase b. So if one of Miriam's cats is homozygous dominant, capital B, and the other cat is heterozygous, which of the following is true about Merriam's cats? Okay, so this one is definitely going to need to be broken down. Okay, so first off, I already have this info. Please make sure on your copy of this, I'm going to be looking for extra notes. I'm going to be looking to make sure you're crossing things off, you're underlining things, and you have actually done some work on it. I'm not just looking for the answers. The assignment from Wednesday, that one is looking for the answers. This one is looking to see if you can actually demonstrate how you got the answer. So feel free to add this text box right here. Genotype is the actual genes or alleles. The phenotype is what we observe. Okay, so question number 3. How about Amaya, are you there?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Do you want to help us out with number 3 or ask for help on number 3?
I can try.
Okay, perfect. So one of Merriam's cats is homozygous dominant and the other cat is heterozygous. So it wants to know what is true about Merriam's cats. And I have information over here that the genotype would tell us the actual genes. So like this BB and this BB, these are both the genotypes. And then the phenotype would be what we actually see. So I will, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you got muted. There you are. Okay, I think I should be sending a unmute. Okay. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so how do you think we can approach this question?
I don't really.
Okay, so you know what? Let's look at our possible answers. What do all the answers have in common?
They're all talking about the genotypes and the phenotypes.
Perfect. So they're all telling you something about genotype and phenotype. So do you think that if we could figure out some more information about the genotype and the phenotype that we might be able to come up with the answer ourselves and then just pick it from that list when we're done?
Yeah.
Okay. So if the genotype is the actual genes or alleles and we represent it by these letters, the first thing I'm going to ask is, are these genotypes the same? So I have one genotype that is 2 capital letters and one that is a capital and a lower. Would you call those the same or different?
Different?
Okay, so they're different. So let's just go through this list here. Different genotype, nope, they're not the same. Different genotype, they're not the same. So I know it's not either of these two. We just changed our chances of getting this question right from 25% up to 50%. We doubled our odds of getting this right. Okay. So phenotype is what we will actually see.
Okay.
So it's telling us that the allele for a brown coat is dominant and the allele for a white coat is the recessive. It's the lowercase b. So if I have a cat that has 2 capital B's, what color fur do you think it's going to have?
I didn't really hear you.
Okay, sorry. So in the first part of the instructions, it tells us that the allele for a brown coat is a capital B, and that's dominant. The allele for a white coat would be a lowercase b. That's recessive. So if we go down to the question, it tells us we have one cat that has a capital B for its genotype. What color do you think the fur or the coat of that cat is going to be?
Brown.
Perfect. So we have a brown cat here. Whoa, that is some crazy writing. All right. Now our other cat, it has a capital B and a lowercase b. What color do you think it's going to be?
Brown.
Perfect. Why do you think it's probably brown? You are exactly correct.
Because the dominant's going to mask over the recessive.
Perfect. So both cats are brown. So that means if we look at either one of these cats, are we going to be able to look at these cats and know they have different genes? Or are we going to look at them and see they're both brown? They look the same.
They look the same.
They look the same. Okay, so our phenotype is the same. So which of the choices are we going to go with?
A.
Different. Yes, perfect. So because they have the same phenotype, it cannot be number 3, and it is the first one. Perfect. Thank you very much. How do you guys feel about this one? Thumbs up, sideways, or down? Perfect. Can I move on, or do I need another couple seconds here? Okay, slowly sliding down here. All right, so in fruit flies, a specific gene mutation causes the wings to become malformed. These wings are called vestigial because they do not function properly. The mutated allele for vestigial wings, we're going to call it a lowercase v. It is recessive to the allele for functioning wings. So if two fruit flies are heterozygous for wing shape, are crossed, and they result in many offspring, which of the following would most likely describe the population of the offspring? So how should we even tackle this one? You can either rewatch the video from the P genetics, and if that gives you a big brain moment and you can figure it out from there, awesome. If it doesn't, we can get it. Levi, yes, you are correct. Do you want to help us walk through that one? Let me see. I'm going to offer an unmute. No. All right, fine. I see how it is. Ooh, so I'm seeing A, I'm seeing B, I'm seeing D. Big selections here. Okay, so we do not have a consensus out there. What we're going to have to do is we're going to need to first figure out what it means by heterozygous wing shape. So I'm going to switch my question. What would the genotype be for fruit flies? For fruit flies with heterozygous wing shape. So what would the genotype be for fruit flies with a heterogeneous wing shape? So remember, heterogeneous means that it is different alleles. So go ahead and type into the chat what you think it will be. And I want 40 answers because I have 40 people in here. Okay, Levi's got it. Itzrel's got it. I need 38 more answers. No. Fortnite is trash. That is not the answer. Oh, I just offended some people. I just went there. Because I'm a terrible person. And I've got people agreeing with me now. Ooh. Yep. Okay, I'm still not getting the answer to my original question. I've got 1, 2 people who have answered my question. I could, if I really wanted to, instead of using, since like today I didn't actually mark any of you here, I could just go to my text chat, which saves after every Zoom, and I could figure out who answered this question correctly. If you answered it properly, you're here today. If you did not answer this question, you're not here. So let's try this again. What would the genotype be for fruit flies with a heterozygous wing shape? If you do not understand the question, please ask me for clarification. Okay, I've got an I don't know. That's fair. I don't understand. Thank you. I've got to help. Okay. So let me go ahead and give you some more context then. So if we come back here to the question about the cat coats, our genotype is the letters that represent the alleles. So I'm going to go ahead and type it out here. So genotype is the actual alleles. It is represented by a pair of the same letter, but can be capital or lower or both. Okay. So what letters are we using in question number 4? Are we using A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, or Z? All right, I'm getting some good answers here. So we are using the letter V. We have a capital version and we have a lowercase version. So our heterozygous alleles means that they're going to be different. So we're going to have a capital and a lowercase v. So we're going to have one of each of these. So go ahead and type to me, what do you think the genotype is going to be for the heterozygous wing shape? Okay, so remember, it should be a pair of alleles. Okay, so Monica's got it, or Myre. Let's see, Kaylani's got it, Itzarel's got it, and Levi had it earlier. Let's see. Kevin's got it. Just waiting for a few more people to admit that they are here today and awake. Andrea or Andrea has it. Yanessa has it. Amaya has it. Give me an exclamation point, not a question mark, because you got it. Same with Lucas. Give me that exclamation point, not a question mark. Let's see. And make sure that they are different, okay? So they should not be the same upper or lower. It's got to be one of each. There we go. I'll go that way. V and V. Let's see. Can I do an unmute? Genevieve, would you like to ask or kind of walk me through where you need help on this?
I don't really know exactly where I need help.
Okay, that's fair. When I'm saying like genotype, where does your brain go? Does it like explode, Or do you have an idea what genotype is?
I don't exactly know what genotype is.
Okay, so let me see if I have it written. Here we go. So genotype, we're going to call that the actual genes or alleles. And that probably is not helping at all, right? It probably is just as confusing. Okay, let's see. Before you transferred into our class, had you been learning anything about cells, meiosis, mitosis, chromosomes? Huh?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. So inside of a cell, it has pretty much all of our genetic information inside of its nucleus. So it has our DNA, which tells all of the parts of the cell how to create the proteins, how to create all the things that make us what we are. So it tells the cell how to make the correct eye color. It tells the cell how to make pigments. It tells the cell which hormones to make. It tells the cell basically everything it needs to know to live. The DNA does that. Part of the DNA has genes. And so genes are kind of the things that help us determine all of our traits. So according to the notes, a gene is a unit that determines our traits. And then, so our traits, that's like all the things that you can describe about yourself or someone else. It's all of the characteristics. So I'm going to pause there for a second, let it kind of sink in. Do you want me to rephrase anything I just said? Or like for now, is it okay?
It's okay.
It's okay. All right. So the genes are what tell us who we are, basically. And an allele is a different form of a gene. So every single person has a gene that will determine our hair color. However, in that gene, there's different types of that gene. There's different alleles. And so that allele can tell us maybe you have black hair or brown hair or blonde yellow hair. Maybe you have red hair. And so the gene says, yeah, you have hair. The allele says, oh, that hair is going to be this color. Everybody in this class has eyes. So we would have a gene that says you have eyes. And then the allele will decide, are your eyes brown, green, blue, hazel, gray, or something else entirely different. So I'm going to pause there again. Good, medium, bad. Okay.
Good.
All right. So now we can take this one more step into the genotype, or the type of genes. So the genotype, we can represent that with letters. The genotype, we represent that with letters. So if we're talking about, in this case, a cat and its fur color, we're going to use capital B because brown is the dominant allele. It's the one that is more likely to show up. So whatever color this cat could be, we're going to use the letter capital B and lowercase b to represent all the possible brown versus white combinations that a cat could have. And so a brown cat, in this case, could be capital B, because it has one allele saying it's brown and another allele saying it's brown. Or it could be capital B, lowercase b, because it would have one allele saying that it's brown and one allele very quietly, very politely saying, can I please be a white fur? But it's so quiet we can't hear it. It's the recessive gene. So this super loud, super powerful, super dominating gene, the brown dominant allele, is going to take control and say, nope, we are a brown cat. Thank you very much. So either of these are genotypes for brown. And then over here, I would have lowercase b. And this would be the genotype that would tell me a white cat. because it would have two little quiet recessive white genes saying, can we please have white fur? But they say it together and nobody speaks over them. So they get to be that recessive phenotype. They get to be the less powerful, I guess, expression of the genes. So I'm going to pause there again. How are we doing on that?
Good.
Good. Okay. So now we're going to bring it down. How about everybody else? Let me get some thumbs ups, thumbs mediums, thumbs downs. All right, cool. So if we come down here and we are talking about the genotype or the letter type of a fruit fly, and it tells us for its wings, we're going to use the letter V, and it's going to be either capital or lowercase. And we know that it is heterozygous, which means the letters are going to be different. We're not going to have two capitals and we're not going to have two lowercases. It's going to be one of each. So what letters should I use? Go ahead and tell me what you think I should write for a heterozygous wing shape if it tells us recessive is lowercase v and dominant is capital V. And from the chat, I'm getting a bunch of good answers. So what letter at all do you think would be one letter we could use?
V.
V. Okay, so we're definitely going to use V. Do you know if we should use up capital, lower, or both, or neither?
One capital.
One capital, okay. And then what would the second letter be? So we want heterozygous, we want them to be different.
Lowercase v.
Perfect. So this is the genotype of heterozygous wing shape of a fruit fly. Whatever. Okay. So now, just because I've got you unmuted, let's go back. It says that the mutated allele, lowercase v, is vestigial. Vestigial is just like, it means it doesn't work. Yes, Matthew, you're good. So vestigial means it doesn't work. Every now and then a human is born with what we call a vestigial tail. How many humans you have any need for a tail? I can't think of any reason I would ever need a tail. So it's just something that sometimes happens and they get rid of it. So vestigial is just something where it is there, but it doesn't do much. So vestigial wings would be this fruit fly. Even though fruit flies need wings, that's how they fly. Sometimes they get wings that are just like deformed and they can't fly with them. So they call them vestigial wings. That is the recessive allele. The functioning wings is capital V, and that is the dominant trait. So if I have my heterozygous wing shape with a capital V and a lowercase v, is this going to have functioning wings or vestigial wings?
Functioning.
Functioning. Perfect. And then with that, I'm going to go ahead and say it is 1:30. I would like you guys back in about 10 minutes. So at 1:40, we will get back started and we will pick up from right where we are. Thank you, Genevieve, for asking those questions and working with me. Question number 4. We are right on target to where we need to be to finish this today. So we have figured out that heterozygous is a pair of different alleles. We know that our alleles is being represented by the letter V, and it can be capital or lowercase. So if we take 2 fruit flies, which are heterozygous, so both of them have one of each. So we have a capital, lower, capital, lower. And we're crossing them, so we put a cross, we put a multiplication sign. we are literally going to multiply alleles right now. So if I say the word foil, if you pretend that you are in a math classroom and you heard your math teacher say foil, would that mean anything to you other than the silver stuff that you cover up food with and make hats so that Sebastian M can't send you like scary messages? So what does foil mean if you're in a math class? What is foil in math? Some of you may know it, some of you may not. Okay, I've got one answer that's on the right track. It is multiplication, I'm being told. What am I wearing? A foil hat. Who doesn't wear this? It's the latest fashion, thank you. I stole Rapunzel's spotlight. Yeah. Okay. So foil, first, outside, inside, last is what I'm hearing a lot of you say. I think some of you have looked it up. So I'm going to keep my hat because I'm getting some compliments now. I don't always get compliments, so I'm just going to leave it. All right. So what we're going to do with that foil is it is a way to multiply coefficients and variables when you're doing distribution. So I have capital V lowercase v times capital V lowercase v. All right, so capital V lowercase v. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start multiplying them, but I'm going to start with the first. So my first term here, or my first coefficient or variable, times the first one on the other term. These are my f. If I multiply capital V times capital V, what would I get if I don't use exponents? So it's going to be capital V, capital V. If we had V plus V, we would get 2V. But this one is V times V, so it would be either VV or V squared. But we are going to do V, both capitals. Okay, now we're going to do the outside terms, or the outside pieces. So this one is on the outside, this little one is on the outside. So we're going to take capital V times lowercase v, and we're going to get capital V, lower v. Okay, so the next one is going to be the O. So the I. So this is the inside, this is the inside. They're kind of squished inside the sandwich. Yellow doesn't work. Orange. So we've got I, and we have V times V. I'm going to keep it capital up front just because I'm extra like that. You can do it either way, but I like to just do it with the capital up front because that's how I write words. I put the capital before the lowercase, not the other way around. And then last, we're going to do the last letters. So this one is the last one of this term. This V is the last of this term. So I'm going to have L. So when I FOIL all these letters out together because they're being multiplied, I come up with capital V, capital V, capital V, lower v, capital V, lower v, and then a pair of lowercase v's. So before I go on, I'm going to pause there. Thumbs up, sideways, or down on that. Okay, that is fair. All right. So kind of when we get into the next section, we're going to get kind of an easier way to do it, which is going to be where we make a box. And if anybody did the study island, it probably gave you this box thing right here. But I didn't want you to do it because we're going to be learning about this next week, possibly. Okay, so what we would do with this box is this is my first, let's say this is mom. And this one is dad. And then inside of this box, I'm going to get one allele from mom, one allele from dad. So in this first box, I get a capital V and a capital V. In the next box, if I go straight down, I'm going to bring that capital V, and then I'm going to bring in this lowercase v. In this box over here, I'm going to have the lowercase v and a capital V. Then I'm going to have a lowercase v and a lowercase v. Is the box better for anybody? So with the box, all I did was I took each piece and pulled it in. Okay. So either one of these work, and this will also work in math. So when you guys are supposed to do FOIL, if you only have two pieces on these terms, you can use that box. Okay, so either one of these will work. This one down here is called the Punnett Square when we're talking about biology. In math, if Mr. Lisko ever shows you this, he'll have a fancy name for it. But FOIL, that one is known forever, millions and millions of years. But you're doing the same thing. We came up with a capital V, capital V. We came up with two that were one of each. And we came up with one that was just the lowercase, lowercase. Okay, so I'm going to look at these. Capital V, capital V. What is the phenotype for capital V, capital V? So phenotype is what we can actually observe, what we actually see. What would the phenotype be for capital V, capital V? So in our thing right here, so genotype is the letters. Phenotype is what we observe. Phenotype is what those letters actually mean and do. So fruit flies, the lowercase v is vestigial. The uppercase V is functioning. Okay, so capital V, you're going to have functioning wings. I'm just going to write it as fun. Okay, these two right here with capital V, lowercase v. Am I going to have functioning wings or vestigial wings? Remember which one is dominant. So recessive is vestigial. What is the opposite of vestigial? Functioning wings. So that means these two, because they have the capital V, they are functional. Okay, so I have three functional wings, or three potential fruit flies out of four that should have functional wings. This last one right here, lowercase v, what is it going to have? Perfect. Vestigial, so vest. Okay, so if they have exactly 4 baby fruit flies, then 3 of them will probably be functional. 1 of them will probably have vestigial. If they have 400 fruit flies, there's a good chance that about 300 of them are going to have functional wings, and about 100 of them will have vestigial wings. So let's start at the top. Are all of the offspring going to have functional wings? Yes or no? Okay, so I'm seeing lots of no's. So not all of them have functioning wings. So we are going to get rid of that one. Does the majority or does most of the offspring have vestigial wings? Nah, it don't. Let's get rid of that one. Is it about half? So is it 50-50? Is it 2-2? Nope, it is not about half. It's more than that. There is a clear majority. So it is the majority. Oh, let's go like that. Let's make it a check mark. Keep consistent, Wriggle. There we go. So what we do is we do the FOIL or we use the Punnett Square, which we're going to get more on Punnett Squares next week. Either way, we're going to figure out how many of each type we have. All right, so in a particular type of cat, the coat color follows the dominant and recessive pattern of inheritance. The allele for a brown coat, capital B, is dominant to the allele for a white coat, which is recessive. And Kevin, you tried to raise your hand earlier, so I'm going to unmute you now. Help us out with number 5, please, sir. I think we're lagging.
No, I put it the lowercase b and the lowercase b, and
Okay.
it got white.
All right, so we took 2 of the lower cases. We can use FOIL again, or we can just say, well, there's no chance of giving a capital B, right? So their babies have to be all lowercase b. And we would end up, if we use the Punnett Square or if we use FOIL, no matter what we do, it's going to come out the same. So first, outside, inside, last, all the answers are going to be BB. Yeah, so Levi just said the parents are both BB, so the kittens are also BB. Because they're homozygous to begin with, if both parents are the same type of homozygous, the offspring has to be the same type of homozygous. If both parents are different types of homozygous, then their offspring will have to be heterozygous because it can only get one of each. So all the babies will be white-coated kittens. We're not going to get any brown spots. There's like not even any brown in this equation. We cannot have or brown coated kittens because there's no capital B at all. And again, there's no capital B, so it can only be white-coated kittens. Who wants to help out with number 6? All right, so Itzarel, you wanted to help us out, right? So both of Tim's parents have brown eyes, but he has blue. How could this be possible?
The possibility is that both parents probably had the dominant gene for brown eyes, and then maybe one of them had a recessive gene for blue eyes, and it passed on to Tim.
Okay, so you say that both the parents, they definitely had the dominant brown gene, and they probably both also had the recessive blue gene, and then it showed up when Tim was born. Okay, so yeah, so she was saying that both parents had a brown eye gene for sure. That's why their eyes showed up as brown, because it's dominant. But they might have also had a lowercase b for blue. So we had that, and we had that. And if you FOIL it all out, you're going to get capital B, mixed, and then a double lowercase. And once we got to that double lowercase, which is the recessive gene, it came out to him. So eye color is genetic. It is not impossible because it happens. And the characteristic is definitely not on the dominant gene. And I just crossed a whole bunch of stuff out. Yay! All right, so thank you, Itzarel. Okay, before we start this one, I'm going to draw a little line right there. And I'm going to say that these two right here, heterozygous and homozygous, these are talking about a pair of genes. So the dominant and recessive, those are going to tell you about one specific allele. Heterozygous or homozygous, those are going to tell us about 2 different alleles. So if we go back up here, there are 2 types of pea plants, those that produce round seeds and those that produce wrinkled seeds. A single gene controls which type of seed a pea plant will produce. An experiment shows that pea plants containing an allele for round seeds will always produce round seeds. Based on this information, we can conclude that the allele for round seeds in a pea plant is what? So before we go into the actual correct answer, can I have you guys tell me how many alleles is the question asking about? Levi and Kaylani, got it? So how many alleles are we asking about in this question? 1 allele or 2 alleles? I want everybody to type this answer to me. So our key word here, the allele. Are we talking about plural or singular? There's no S on the end, so it's only one, uno, un. Okay, so the 1 allele. which means we can cross out these two answers because we do not have a pair of alleles. So we just went from a 25% chance of getting this question right to a 50% chance of getting it right. Testing techniques, folks. Getting you practice for NWEA in a couple weeks here. Okay, so dominant and recessive, those are our two options. So if the pea plants that have an allele for round always produce round seeds, does that mean round is dominant or recessive? Let's see. So we are looking for the answer for the type of allele that will mask the other one, the one that always wins. So the round allele will always be seen when it is present. So if the allele is always seen when it's present, does that make it the dominant one or the recessive one? So like if you're in a class of 500 kids and there's one who is always visible, one that is always heard, they are the dominant one. But if you have one who is quiet and can never be heard, they're the more recessive one. And so they will not be necessarily heard or seen. So the round one is always seen whenever it's present. So that one is our dominant one. Like for anybody who's a gamer, the person who is dominating is the person who is like constantly winning. They are dominating the competition. They are dominating all of their opponents. So when we have alleles or genes in a genotype, whenever that capital letter is there, it is going to dominate. It is going to be the one that like smashes everybody else. It just stomps on the little guys. So the dominant will always be seen. The only time it's not seen is when it's not there. So when the dominant logs off, then the little recessive guys can play.
Okay, yeah. I understand. Thank you.
I know my audience here sometimes. Like you guys all love Baby Shark, except when you don't. And a couple of you play video games. Who knew, right? All right, so a gene or a trait that appears or expresses itself over a recessive trait is called, after that explanation for number 7, I'm hoping that just about everybody knows this one. So this one can be found back in the definitions again. So if we go back and look for the type of allele that is always present, it masks the other one. That's what we're looking for. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mark it as a dominant gene. So again, it's the one that dominates. It's the one that is always there. It imposes itself over everyone else. Question number 9. What can be described as alternate forms of a particular gene? This is straight from the definitions from Tuesday. So I'm going to type it right there. All right, question number 10. So a dog with brown fur breeds with a dog with gray fur. When the puppies are born, 3 of the puppies have brown fur, 1 puppy has gray fur. It's so nice when everything just works out in those perfect ratios. So assuming that there are only 2 alleles that code for fur color, what is the most likely reason for the puppy's fur colors? So assuming there are only 2 alleles that code for color, what is the most likely reason? So there are a bunch of brown and 1 gray. There's more of the brown, not so much of the gray. The brown is dominating, the gray is not so much. So that means the gray is recessive and that the brown is dominant. So it has to be C. Okay, so if you guys have been paying attention and following along and you made all sorts of extra little marks on your cami, you probably got 100. I will grade them over the weekend. And I'm probably just going to simply go, did you fill it out? Yeah, you filled it out. You got 100. If you have nothing on here, you got a 0. Easy enough, right? So since everybody has been following along all day today and you are done and you're complete, I want you to come up here where it says turn in, up at the very top of your page. Once you hit turn in, it should automatically send this to me in Schoology, and it will give you your credit that you want. And then once you've got that turned in on Schoology, here's the next thing I want you to do. I want you to go back out into this week's folder. I want you to go to week 2, Wednesday, October 14th. I want you to go back to Study Island Mendelian Genetics Part 1. If it does not tell you you have 100% on this, then just do it again. So we just gave every single answer to this question set right here. So if you don't have 100, just redo it, get yourself 100 points. If you've only got 90, we just got every single answer perfect 100%. So you are hurting yourself by not getting that 100%. You can get 10 extra easy points. So please go back, fill this out. This is really how I'm going to grade that Cami we just did. This is going to tell me how many you got right. This is going to tell me if you paid attention to me or not. Okay, so make sure that you have the highest possible score on Study Island Mendelian Genetics Part 1. And then also make sure that you have hit turn in to get this to me.